Well, it's nice to see that smiley face of yours again. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. I haven't had real food in 4 days. I'm on what they call the toddler diet. And this is episode 346 of the O The Anthem podcast. Once again, coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you can't keep us away. This the easiest way to find the audio version of this podcast, anchor.fm/O The Anthem, gives you direct links to all the places where you like to listen to us.
And Roberto, you're officially fired. All of my scenes are disconnected from where they're supposed to be, and now that we're live again, I forgot. And producer Brooks, although he's not in the house tonight, is way cuter, so he's going to be staying on for a while. So happy I got to meet producer Brooks in the last couple of days now that isolation is over. Oh, and I forgot, we're going to have isolation in place for producer Roberto, too, even if we wanted him to come back.
Yeah, that's true.
And let's see, they make dogs stay for 6 weeks if they go to Hawaii. So let's do that math. Dogs 6 weeks Hawaii, Roberto 6 months LA. Is
Something
that how
like
it works?
that. I think we gotta. I think we have to chain them up in the room.
Yeah,
like the gulags and stuff like that.
All right, that's fine. Speaking of gulag, Roberto, have your PlayStation ready because we are gonna be playing some Call of Duty. But we're not talking about any of that stuff this week. This week we are going to be talking about a lot of stuff, including the fact that, hey, we remembered it's a holiday before the holiday actually came this time.
It's a lovely change of pace.
Not often that happens. Sometimes we don't remember until well afterwards.
Oh, we should have talked about Thanksgiving this week. We say to ourselves on Thanksgiving.
As we're sitting at the table, yes. And, good news is that we get the chance to sit around the table, so that's good. All well and good, I suppose. But yeah, it's always better when we are like, hey, we didn't do a Basement of Horror episode. Remember how we used to do those things? And like, oh yeah, we should have done that for this week since it's going to be after Halloween.
We left the basement, so
also that's true.
Yeah.
And it still continues to astound me, the point from last week, that we've been here nearly twice as long as we were in deep below the earth in Parkville, Maryland.
Indeed.
And it doesn't seem like that. I don't know. Very weird. Time changes. Time seems weirder in LA, but it also could be that an entire year of our time here has been spent inside. So.
Well, I still maintain, I like the old joke where somebody who lives in New York does 15 things and they're just like, oh, I got nothing done today.
Yeah.
And somebody in LA does 2 things and they're like, oh man, my day was swamped.
Unbelievable.
It's so much to do.
Well, also, if one of those things is on the west side, forget it. That's all you were getting done today anyway, so it's fine.
The travel time alone.
But I know you wanted to have a special talk about Thanksgiving on this week's episode.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how special it needs to be because I think everyone's sort of getting this talk in some way or another, or if you aren't, you should. But the coronavirus is still raging out of control. Way worse than it had been at any other point during the pandemic.
Wait. Are we still doing that thing?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I mean, I don't know, because I just see everybody, they're out at restaurants.
Ted Cruz said as soon as the election was over, people would just forget about the coronavirus.
Yeah,
and apparently that's what happened, but the coronavirus didn't forget. That's the problem.
Oh, okay. Well, what do we have to do?
Nobody filled in the coronavirus on our plans to forget about it.
Some sort of roofies that work on the coronavirus? What do we have to do so I can go home and see my family this week?
We have to eliminate the coronavirus in some way. So vaccines look like a promising start, but we're also a little bit of a ways away from people actually getting these vaccines, like normal people. If you were a nurse or a first responder of some kind, you're probably going to get it first. And if you're with good reason.
If you're older, you'll probably get it first as well.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people who are discussing who should be second in line behind nurses and healthcare workers and stuff like that.
Influencers have to be it. Listen, Corey, they have to have parties. They have to have events.
Something that is not going to get suggested nearly enough, but I think should be put in there is not only seniors in nursing homes, but also prisoners in prison.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's how a lot of this is bred into, because just everyone in a prison gets sick.
Because they're doing this thing of let's keep them in the local jail instead of sending them to prison.
Yeah.
And then you go in for a weekend, and then you contract it from the guys who are in there for several months.
Right, because you threw a party and Gavin Newsom sent you a ticket. And
yeah. So then you went to jail, and then you picked up COVID from the jail, and you took it back to your party. The next weekend, I got out of jail celebration party. But I did, actually, side note, it's not on our list of things to talk about, but I want to interrupt because you brought it up.
Yeah.
The thing about the vaccines. All the news is great. Moderna has one that's 90% effective. Pfizer has one that's 80% effective.
I think both of those are 95.
Are they 95?
Yeah.
So
Moderna, or no, what's the other one? I always get it mixed up with Audio-Technica.
yes, AstraZeneca.
AstraZeneca.
They have a 70% one.
80%. But I think theirs also has some sort of like safeguards against transmitting.
So
like,
here's the thing. 95% is the number because that is best case scenario.
Yeah.
But what they did is they did this structured out testing where some people got full dose in one shot. Some people got half dose, 2 months apart or 1 month apart.
Mm-hmm.
Some people got small dose and then what they called a prime dose, and then a month later got whatever was left of the dose.
Right.
That averaged out to 95% efficacy. The studies themselves actually show that most people got the priming dose and then the full dose, which means that that's likely the most effective kind.
Yeah.
Is putting that little, we're going to give you a little primer so your system's like, hey, whoa, and overreacts to it. And right about the time it calms down, we bombard it with more of the vaccine, and then it overreacts again, and that should give you full protection. But Pfizer's vaccine and Moderna's vaccine need to be transported, one at -70 and the other at -50. And there is not infrastructure to move vaccines around the country at that temperature.
Yeah.
So essentially, unless you are near a manufacturing plant or a large facility, God bless Kaiser, because I did my research and I found out Kaiser LA has a deep freeze facility in the basement.
There are 6 in California, so...
So if you guys listen to us in Maryland, sorry. Although there is one at Johns Hopkins as well.
Yeah.
So the most trusted hospital in Maryland has one of these facilities. So really, the place where they don't have it is the place where they need it, in the center of the country where nobody believes COVID's real. But the good thing about AstraZeneca is it's less effective. Again, 80% if you don't use the averaging, which is what they should do because they gave 3 different doses kinds. But essentially what they said is, we've learned that small dose, big dose is the way to go. So we're going to use that number as the effective number. If we use all of the numbers, it's actually more like 70, but that's because we did it several different ways. That one can be transported at -20, which is about the limit of where we usually transmit or transport vaccines, and everybody has infrastructure for that. Your CVS, your local CVS, can actually do a -20 vaccine.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be that most people will end up getting the AstraZeneca vaccine because it'll be the one that the government can put money in to say, hey, Target, you have a CVS in it? Great. We're going to send you some vaccine. Give it away for free. And also most of the world will get that because it's the only way we will get a vaccine out to a lot of places.
Yeah.
Because building infrastructure to send out a whole new vaccine that, by the way, may never need to be repeated is going to be a problem.
I also, just personally speaking, I don't know anything offhand, but I am a little bit nervous about the guardrails that have been lowered to allow this to go so fast. Not to say that these vaccines aren't going to make a tremendous impact on curbing the virus and stuff like that, but I don't necessarily think that everyone should examine this as like the golden ticket that like saves us all. More so the thing that allows us to eradicate it enough that it doesn't cause chaos like it has been. You know,
we're using about 500,000 people as the example for 6 billion people, which is not statistically accurate.
Right.
What's the rule? It's 1,200 people is essentially reflective of the U.S. So if I poll 1,200 people, but you know what? If I poll 1,200 people in northern Baltimore County, that is not representative of the.
But also, much like a poll, if it takes you 100 times to get somebody to answer a question, how representative is that poll?
Right.
Like if you got 1,200 people in a poll, but it took you 120,000 calls to get it. Yeah. Like. And I can find 1 out of 100 people who will stay on the phone with me for a little while and answer political questions. I don't necessarily think those people are representative of everybody.
And part of the problem is that vaccine takers are also generally going to be people who were probably the vaccine testers were people who were staying at home. They were working from home if they could. And so 95% efficacy looks very good. But does that mean it'll reflect?
You also can't probably tell, like, Pfizer can't if you got the vaccine, Pfizer can't be like, hey, you got it, go party. Like,
yes. Yeah, and they're definitely not saying that.
Because if you went partied and died, then they would be responsible for the fact that they told you to go do something that was dangerous in the face of this thing.
The real hope is not that it is as has as much efficacy as the tests show. The hope is that we reach the lower end of herd immunity, and by acting responsibly and getting the vaccine, that people acting responsibly and then being slightly protected, most of us being protected when we go out to have to go to the grocery store or the drugstore, that we will have simulated herd immunity and knock it down.
And so I guess the point I'm trying to make to all the people who are traveling, 3 million people got on airplanes this weekend. More people are traveling than car than was expected. Again, both these numbers are lower than what a normal Thanksgiving would look like, but still a lot more than I think either one of us feel comfortable with.
Hey, Corey, they traveled on the weekend to avoid a crowd, all right? Did you see O'Hare? It was a ghost town today.
It was absolutely not a ghost town today. Don't listen to Rob on that one. I don't know. I don't know what can be said to people who are going to travel and see their families and potentially put them in harm's way that like will get through to people, you know, like we're past the point of being able to like you know, it's like smoking. Like if you're going to smoke, you're going to smoke. There's not really anything that anyone can tell you that's going to make you stop. You know, it's not like I haven't heard of cancer before. So
yeah,
you know, like it's
we're not our grandparents where it's like the doctors are telling you like switch to Camels because you need a little less tar, right. But otherwise you're gonna be fine.
You'll find that it's a smoother burn of your throat. Like
here, I have something.
Turkish tobacco.
I have something I'd like to tell everyone, and maybe this will work. Listen, I traveled on a non-Thanksgiving close to date. Luckily, my nephew's birthday is in the zone of the holidays, kind of the front end of the holidays.
Yeah.
But other than the delay on the plane coming home, which sucked because we sat in the tarmac on a plane for a long time, and why I enforced a full 2 week isolation and quarantine, because I wouldn't have if I hadn't sat on a damn plane for 5 hours.
By the way, appreciate that, by the way. Because, I mean, like, you know, something I would like to say to people who are listening. Maybe you be proactive with your other friends if you know that you're going to have to quarantine for some sort of reason, and give them the extra time so that they don't have to ask it of you.
Yeah.
Because it is, like, we discussed it before you left, and you said, I'm going to do 2 tests, I'm going to do 2 weeks quarantine, I'm going to do this by the books so we can be as safe as possible, and I didn't have to say anything. You know, other people I might see, I have to have caveats. I'm just like, all right, well, when you get home.
It's a responsible thing, and I don't understand why. I was telling people, like, okay, so I'm going to be back to work on Tuesday, but that doesn't mean I'll be back in the office on Tuesday. I will be back
teleworking.
Working, but I'll be at home. Now, if there is an absolute emergency, I do have a PM5, which is essentially a 100 mask. Like what the website that I bought it from, which is an NIOSH website, said is that if a chemical weapon was to go off within 100 feet of me, it would burn my eyes and my skin off, but my lungs would be fresh as they were the day before, because it'll protect you from everything, particulates and are the important thing here, but it would protect me from particulates. So if I have to go in, I can mask up for an hour, come in and handle it, but I'm working from home. And people were like, don't you think you're overreacting? And I said, you're going to Soho House for lunch every day. I think that's underreacting.
Yeah.
And if I'm overreacting, then fine. But also, I don't want to get people I know sick. So that's up to you. But I did, I got back on Monday. So technically, I was fully isolated for 11 days, 2 negative tests within the 11 days, both of which were, one was at 7 days, one was at the 11th day. Or no, the 10th day plus the 11th. No, I was isolated for 12 days.
Yeah.
11th day I had a test. 6th day I had a test. And both came back negative. So we're all good. I'm going to get another test next week because it'll be day 20, which means I'll be fully on the other side of it. If for some reason I'm some sort of freak and it took 15 days for me to start showing any symptoms or to be asymptomatic, I'll know, and then we'll be good. But I will call that last test the clearance test. And I'm like, all right, this incident is now over. I don't know why people aren't doing that. But here's the deal.
But I mean, like, here the problem is that, like, you know, all this could be for naught technically because, like, you know, I went out to pick up lunch today.
Yep.
I didn't, eat outside or have my mask off for any period of time outside of the apartment. But like, I went out to pick up lunch. How do I know I didn't get a trace amount from somebody while I was out doing that? And then, you are safe, but now I am having it. And then 5 days later, I start shedding it, and then you get it. And then, without contact tracing, there's no way to ever be able to tell how something happened and like how somebody
accidentally broke curfew and went to a CVS day before yesterday, and I didn't have any close contact with somebody, but I touched things that were in a store that they clearly weren't expecting people to be in. So it had been hours since they had done their COVID protocol or whatever. But who knows? You can only look at incidences. But what I can say is I missed my family. I was looking forward to seeing them at the holidays, but now I realize that it's not worth the risk to travel with a bunch of people and possibly get them sick.
Yeah.
I was able to hug my mother and my father and see my nephew and play with him, and that was great. And I did that. I wouldn't do it now because the hug that I give
you were telling me before you left, like, oh man, I really wish I didn't book this. Like,
so, and to be fair, when I booked it, numbers were exceedingly low, and it was like, oh well, this is weird. We didn't get a bump after Halloween. Everything looks fine. And then as travel approached, the bump came.
Yeah,
and it was just delayed a couple of days, and then things were looking horrible at both ends of the trip. And I was like, all right, well, this was dumb, but I've already said I'm coming. The trip's booked, so I got this PM100 mask.
Yeah.
Let's push through and see how it goes. But the message I want to give to people is that, like, listen, I having done it, I know that it rejuvenated me to see my family. I understand that. But if you travel now, if you're one of the 3 million people flying this week, then the chance of you hugging your grandmother, your mother, your father, your grandfather, your nephews that you miss so much, and also at that same hugging time, feeling rejuvenated in your energy and passing COVID to them, the probability is there. And I know that human beings it's impossible for us to calculate probability that you see somebody who is out taking a trip every other weekend because flights are so cheap.
Or who's at the bar every night, back home, wherever you are.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, well, they never get it. You're right. And their chance of getting it is as equal as it was yesterday as it is today. Their luck doesn't get better. I mean, maybe their luck does, but luck's not really a thing. The chance of getting it tomorrow was the same as it was today. They didn't. It doesn't make it more or less likely they will tomorrow. Actually, with the numbers going up, it's probably more likely you get it tomorrow. But
so there's a thing that I recommend people go look for, which is the Georgia Tech has put together a map that allows you to sort of calculate the risk of certain things at certain events based off of real-time data. They constantly update the model.
Is it the anonymous phone data or whatever?
I don't remember offhand how they got some of it, but I know, local testing numbers are part of the calculus for it and stuff like that. But you can literally go to, like, Nashville. There's 100 people at this bar. What are the chances that there's somebody with COVID here? Mm-hmm. And you can see the rates increase by how many people are in a place together. Like, it's like one of those things. Like, I think it was like if you went to Nashville. I think I looked it up for Nashville because our friend was there at the time
at a bar.
And I was just like, it was like if it was you and 3 other people, it would be like a 5% chance that somebody had COVID or something like that. Right. It's just like, okay, that's low. And it's like, what if there's 100 people? Like, regardless of social distancing, anything else, 100 people, it's just like 96% chance. Yeah. Somebody there has COVID. So
and then the probability that you get it from them is
you might not get it.
Factors.
You might not get it in the room. There might be somebody with COVID in a room of 100 people, and you don't get it. But that doesn't mean that the chance wasn't there for you to get it.
Yes.
And you don't know about it for a week, and you might not even show it. That's the worst part. Is that, like, I could be sick and shedding the virus and not showing any kind of symptoms whatsoever and killing somebody.
Yeah. There was that meme going around of people sitting around a fire circle, which looked so familiar to everybody in Maryland that I know. That is like, well, we went out, we were outside, we were sitting around a fire. I'm like, yeah, but it was a cold night and you were sitting, there was people within 2 feet of you on both sides. So 6 people within 6 feet of you. And it's like, oh, well, one person goes to this bonfire who has COVID and now all of you are going home with it. And let's say you don't even get sick because they're sick and they don't know it. They're asymptomatic. Well, one of them is married to a nurse or doctor, so now they're taking it into the hospital staff, and somebody else is married to a cop or a fireman, and now they're taking it into the firehouse or the police station and taking down half of the first responders. It's just like The chances are ridiculous. And again, it's so hard because humans can't calculate probability. Because if I roll snake eyes 3 times in a row, I feel like I'm going to roll snake eyes again.
Yeah.
But there's no. I have the same chance of rolling snake eyes I had every single time before. It's equal every single time. It's just impossible.
It's the hot hand fallacy.
Yes. Yeah. And just like when you're losing at cards, and I've seen people get up from a table at a casino, turn, and just go to the table behind them because it's like, this table is not good for me right now. I'm gonna go.
It's got bad juju.
Yeah, it's got. Both of them have 3 decks of cards. You got the same chance of getting this. Same deck of cards. But
I can understand that though a little bit though, because they're sometimes even though I'm very logical and like I'm just like I'm totally down with everything we're talking about, probabilities and everything here, I do feel like there's some sort of cosmic nature to the world like that I can't explain, like even though I know.
And this is the human condition
I know.
That you're saying, I understand the logic. I get it. Probability's there. But maybe, there's just a little bit of something in the magic in the...
Because it's not like all everything is tied to exact probability, like... It's not a 100. It's 99% probability, but there's a 1% chance there for magic for less than a better term.
There's overlapping probability because like in a card game, someone's dealing the cards. Okay, but somebody else may have loaded those cards into the machine. So now it's like probability on probability on probability, and then you get random happenstance.
Well, and by technicality, if there's 5 people at the table. Again, don't go to a casino with 5 people right now. I don't know what else to tell you, but
sitting at a table.
If you were hypothetically sitting at the casino table and you're the 5th person in the line, your probability changes with every card that's dealt. Card. So it's not the same as saying like, oh, I have a 1 in 3 pack, 156 1 in 56 chance of getting this card, 3 in 56 chance of getting this card.
Yeah. Well, and so here's what I'll say. I agree with you in theory on one condition.
Okay.
Because I understand that within the computer, when you build a computer model, that as much as you try to make things pure probability, that the model will always defer. Even a random number generator will at times defer to spitting out a number every so many times. Yeah. So because we live in a simulation and nothing you actually know is real, this is actually a computer program that's being fed into our consciousness, then that could actually be the 1% you're talking about. The random number generator gets lazy and it's just like, hey, you know what? But Snake eyes 4 times in a row. Bam, 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 bam.
But to the the gambler type of logic here, like the moving to the other table is trying to account for that 1%. I have nothing I can do about the 99%.
Yeah.
The cards that I'm dealt are what I have. Like, I don't have a way of, like, dancing and get special cards. Like, there's nothing that can change the probability. The only thing I can change is that 1%, do I have the magic in me?
Yeah, you're looking for the black cat to walk through twice. Get a little,
little
glitch in the matrix and spit you out nothing but 21s for the rest of the night.
Well, it's the same. You watch the NFL, and they're just like, Amazon Web Services says this is a 22% of the time they catch this ball. And it's just like, okay, yes, technically, this catch looks like 1 out of every 5 times somebody's going to come down with it. But, you're figuring this out based off of thousands of catches that have happened like this and what the chances are that you're going to catch it based off of that, which is not the same thing as like, the cornerback might be different. The quarterback is different. The wide receiver is different. Everything is different. Like, there's no way to... You could sort of say, like, in the abstract, like, this is a 1 in 5 catch that somebody would make this. But that doesn't mean that you have to be, like, the best wide receiver in the league to pull it down. You could be the last guy in the roster and pull down a catch like that.
Well, I think that's why Tom Brady's statistics were so good for so long, because it was like, oh, well, he's had Danny Woodhead with him for 5 years, and he's had Gronkowski with him for 6 years. And it's like, no. If Brady is throwing to a tight end, he's throwing to this tight end. And so we have more reliable statistics.
Right.
Unlike, I don't know, like the Ravens who might have...
a normal out route from a tight end is a 50-50 ball. And you're just like, well, not when you're Brady and Gronkowski. It's up a little bit more than...
Yeah, and because those two are getting together in March to throw balls together.
Because you got people like, Carson Wentz out there. Like, you can't just... He's lowering the average for the Bradys,
Well, listen, all I'm saying is based on what my tight end did this week in fantasy football, it seems like the tight end is trying to build up that end of the exchange.
That end of the exchange, yeah.
Yeah. But not forgetting about Thanksgiving, but I wanted to go through some of the CDC guidelines. Did you have those? I have them in front of me. Let me run through them. So basically, the holiday guidelines for the CDC, you can see them on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. If not, make sure you check out the video on YouTube and on Facebook. But essentially, the Thanksgiving and Christmas rules are treat it like another day. If you're going to have a family dinner, make it with the family you have in your household. So, for instance, we are going to have Thanksgiving dinner. It's going to be with the same 4 people that we have been around every single day for the last 5 months. Maybe with the addition of the 2 other people who are also in the bubble.
Yeah.
If that happens, that they both get here, which probably won't happen. But
I think Roberto is probably waiting until afterwards just to...
Well, it's not a holiday in Mexico, so, you know. They were I don't know if you get this, Corey, but for the Mexican people, they were the Indians in this kind of exchange.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Pilgrim Indians. So
I understand.
Didn't work out so well for them.
He's still a fucking citizen, all right?
Listen, I haven't seen the paperwork. I need a long form from... Tucson?
Yeah.
Where is he from?
Tucson.
See, I don't even know. I don't know if we can trust any of this.
Trump is thinking about taking away birthright citizenship, and then all of a sudden radio silence from Roberto.
He's like, I ain't coming back, bro. I came back voluntarily. I ain't trying to get sent back. But
I ain't sitting in a fucking old Walmart in El Paso.
By the way, camps on the border, hysterectomies, kids in cages, still happening.
Yeah.
Still going on. So,
but the fact that you can't have candied yams in Topeka is the real heartbreak of it.
But so you can host virtual dinners, which it's actually interesting because I saw on Hulu, I think, Facebook Portal is doing this really interesting thing where it's like the head of the table seat was a portal. And the portal went to the head of the table seat at somebody else's table. And they had put another portal at the other head of that table so that you had 3 families all having dinner together at 3 different portals. And Portal has that thing where it like auto focuses on the speaker. So it was moving around. It was very cute.
Yeah.
There's no way it functions that well in actual life, but functionally it looked very cute. But
the worst part is I only have one choice of what to tell my family to like call me on. It's like Google Meet, and that's it, because that's the only one they can understand.
Oh,
like,
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say Zoom.
Yeah, but if it involves downloading something, it's just a fruitless effort because.
And this is a good thing about my early trip home is I'm
on an audio interface website. You went to the wrong Zoom. Well, how am I supposed to know? I Googled Zoom.
I pre-installed Zoom and Duo on all devices.
I should have thought about that before. Yeah. If I knew I wasn't going to be back in Maryland for a while, I would have. The
new lesson is whatever gifts I give people, I'm going to have them delivered to me. And then I'll program them and then I'll send them to the family. It's worth the shipping to deal with
just
the headache.
Connect it to the Wi-Fi. That's all you got to do.
I've already put it in with the password. You just need to plug it in and hit connect. That's all you got to do. But the other thing to do is obviously shop online. You pointed out on our ride over here that the number one place that people are getting infections is
in LA.
Out shopping.
Yeah.
In LA, yes, is out shopping. People are being very responsible, but you have to buy food, and going to the grocery store is a reality. So that's where people are picking up infections more than anything else.
Yeah.
So it's sad, but I mean, that's where we are. And what I told my staff today was, it's been a rough year. But in the end, I've always said that going through hard times, though it doesn't seem like it at the moment, is a good thing. Because there are people out there who have never experienced any hard times in their life, Kim Kardashian. And if you are
Hey, that sex tape was stolen. And then only after a long time did she start to see rewards from it, dividends. I mean, like, for a year, people thought she just made a sex tape and she didn't make any money from it. And then how was she supposed to live,
So there are people like the Kardashians, influencers and the like, who don't really have bad days. They do things like their bad day, by the way, is we had to quarantine for a week and take 3 tests so that we could go to a private island for a party.
Yeah.
With a bunch of people. And so the thing is, they will never enjoy those good times as much as those of us who have really struggled will, because you can only know how good something is by knowing how bad it can be. So we'll know how good things, we will appreciate the little things in life, like going to the store without a mask or not walking back in my apartment 4 times because I forgot my mask and my gloves and then also my headphones. I'll just go back for the headphones the one time and then I'll be gone. But we'll appreciate that because we've been in that position where everyone's Batman. It's like, oh, fuck my mask, and I have to go back into the...
Well, I mean, there's I wonder if Batman ever forgot his mask. Is that one of a lesser DC tome?
Yeah.
The part that I like to think of it in terms of like when we see our families now. We see our families once or twice a year, as opposed to when I was living at home, like, multiple times a week. So like but like, I mean, like, when you see them multiple times a week, hugging them goodbye doesn't feel like a big thing. When you see them twice a year, it means a lot more.
Yep.
Now that I haven't seen them for, going on a calendar year, like I desperately want to see them and hug them and tell them I love them and everything like that. But, we gotta push through a little bit more. I know it's tough. And this is the worst part because, LA is about to shut down again.
Yep.
It's like right on the horizon.
Well, it's underway.
We had 6,000 cases in LA today, which is a lot.
Yeah.
for anywhere.
Restaurants are shutting down. I mean, unless you're the governor, then they're not. But they're shutting down for most
and that's
people.
the worst part. Like like really all the Newsom, Garcetti, or whoever your local people are, Hogan, whatever. They're shutting down the things that they can to try and make some sort of impact. Like, people aren't playing by the rules, so now I have to shut down restaurants because I have no other choice. This is all I can do.
Yeah.
If people would listen to, the governor, or the mayor, or whoever it is for them, and they said, please don't go anywhere, please have a Thanksgiving at home with just the people you live with and stuff like that, then I think we'd be a lot better off if people would just listen. But, like that, nobody wants to listen, and everything is politicized now, and there's no way to calmly and politely ask people to play by the rules. So, like, it gets led to this point where you have to.
And there's different rules in different jurisdictions. We were saying earlier, we could have driven 40 minutes and gone and seen a movie in a movie theater.
Yeah.
Which is great, and I would love to do that, except for we would be going in a movie theater with people who had been going to bars and restaurants pretty regularly for weeks now, and that's just I'm not going to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but because within a 40-minute, and that's a 40-minute LA drive, not a 40-minute drive anywhere else in the country where it's 20 miles away, less than that, maybe 15 miles away.
I mean, like, all my favorite things have been taken from me, and I'm not trying to say woe is me, because there's people who have it way worse than me. Like I'm very lucky that I am healthy and safe and not on the street.
Your favorite things,
and
not your favorite people, have been taken away, and some people have lost their favorite people. And
and and a lot of people have lost a lot of their like the worst is that you're seeing the stories about like these super spreader events where like people had a wedding with 400 people. And, 80 people got sick and 17 people died. Like, can you imagine 17 of the 400 closest people dying all at once because of something you did? Like,
there was a woman on CNN.
I wouldn't, it's like one of those things, like, you could be in a car accident that's not your fault that kills somebody. Yeah. And I would have a hard time, like, dealing with that for a while, even though it had nothing to do with me. It was like, it was a freak occurrence. Like, I just happened to be the method that this happened. Mm-hmm. But like, I would really struggle with it. And I would struggle with it if I gave somebody COVID too. That's part of the reason why I try and be so like extra safe. Like,
there was a woman on CNN who her husband got COVID, and then as he was dying, they tried to follow the guidelines as best they could, but her grandfather and her mother both came. No, wait, not her husband. Her father. Her father was dying. So she and her mother and her grandfather all basically tried to follow as best they could, but as he died, they were overcome and went in the room and, did what they did. And then 2 weeks later, on the same day, her mother and her grandfather died. And she was basically like, so now it's me. I'm the only one left. And I'm positive, but I'm asymptomatic. So tell me how that works, that like I'm asymptomatic and everybody else died.
I mean, like I do. I like to think about it in terms of the possible downside of this sort of thing. Like, there were illegal things I've done in my life, like illegal things I've done in my life. I've sped. right?
Murder that one time.
There's a statute of limitations. That one ain't up. So no, just kidding. A 40 mile per hour speed limit. I'm going 60 when I'm a younger kid. Like,
or 80 or
whatever. It's
95.
In my mind, I was safe.
Yeah.
I was in control. There's nobody else around. Just wanted to open it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Ain't no problem with that.
Top of your reflexes of your life,
With the idea being that if it wasn't safe, it wasn't ideal, then I wouldn't be speeding like that. And I had an opportunity where I felt like I could gun it a little bit, and I did it. So, in reality, the risk is higher because you're going faster, and you might crash and hurt yourself worse than if you were going the speed limit.
Yeah.
But, what's the difference at a certain point? It's not quite the same as like, well, I want to go see my family because I haven't seen them all year, and nothing bad's going to happen to them. No, I mean, the chances, there's an outside chance that you hug your dad and then he dies alone in a room because nobody can go visit him in the COVID section, it's COVID ward of the hospital.
Or somebody goes and visits him and they also get COVID in that moment and then they die as well.
I wouldn't, if you told me that the chances of if I went 1 mile over the speed limit that, there's a 30% chance that somebody I love dies, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to ever do that. Why would I?
Well, and that's why, funny thing, I also liked to speed when I was younger. I was in law school also, which made me feel like I had a little bit of a, pull me over. Go ahead. I got to fight in this. It's fine. But then I started dating someone. I got to
test my skills.
Then I started dating someone who had a kid. And all of a sudden, I stopped driving 95 in a 65 and started driving 64 in a 65.
Yeah.
Because I make one mistake and this very small person who depends on me for life loses their life. And I will have to live with that for the rest of my life. And not worth it. It's not worth it to get there a little sooner if I'm going to put these people at risk now.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I know that most of the people who are out there and partying don't have kids and they can't even imagine what it'd be like to have kids, but think about that. That again, if speeding meant someone had a chance of dying in your life, would you do it? No, of course you wouldn't. Well, going home and breaking these rules does mean somebody has a chance of dying. Just don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not just a chance of dying. It's a significantly higher chance than under normal circumstances. Speeding on a sunny day when there's nobody around and speeding during a hurricane is not the same thing. So you got to think about how it relates to the probabilities of what we're talking about here.
And once again, like the United States, COVID has taken over the podcast, and we spent more time than we allotted for that. But speaking of people who have lost people close to them that were very important, Rudy Giuliani has lost his hairdresser, clearly. And that's a very important person because now he's dyeing his hair himself. And then this happens. Which, I mean, I make that joke, Corey, but here, I'm going to put you up with...
I actually flipped over to the video so I could see. I just enjoy watching Rudy's face melting.
Yeah, and I suspect...
The faces he makes, too, are the most, it literally looks like he's like, I'm leaking!
When I first saw this, I thought that it was Tanner that he was sweating on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, he's been around Trump for too long, and now he's sweating Tanner. But then somebody correctly pointed out that, oh, no, he's sweating, and he clearly is dyeing his own hair now, and it's not holding as well as the dye would have. And now he's just black is dripping through the fake Tanner.
Yeah.
And it's getting this very dark tan line down his face. And this aside, Rudy was part of an insane news conference.
Just as a thing about hair dye, I'm 36 years old.
Yeah.
I got a little gray going on here. Nothing super noticeable, but if you're up close, you can definitely see it.
Yeah, I got more in my beard than I have in my actual head.
The beard probably comes in more because it's all right here. Too, an obvious spot. And there's been a moment where I've thought about maybe I'll dye it because it just looks weird to have it's like when you're a teenager and you only have 4 facial hairs,
or if you're in your 20s in Roberto, but yeah.
But I mean, it just, I would rather it be even.
Yeah.
I don't mind going gray. I think I'll look very good when I go gray. I just rather it not be patchy. I'd rather just when a celebrity is in quarantine and then all of a sudden you notice they have gray hair. It's just I just want it to change one day.
Yeah. Well, and as my dad went not gray, but white. At my age that I am now, and I'm worried about that, but he was like, no. At 28, it started, and I was just all the way there by 38. So hopefully I got my mom's family's genes.
Yeah.
But what he said is, the good news about that is people forget how old you are. It's when you get to be 50 and you start going gray that they're like, oh, that's right, you're old. But when you're in your 30s and you're going gray, people are like, how old are you? And they're 35. Then they forget. It's been 30 years. You've been gray for 30 years. So, you know, it's almost better to go gray earlier. And Rudy,
take that lesson.
I mean, that, and also it's like half of it's bald. You're half bald. What are you worried about?
That's the other part I don't understand. Like, the people who go bald, and nothing against people who go bald, because you know you have no control over this, really.
But some people do. But
I mean, some people do, but most people really don't have any control over this. I would rather, if I was going bald, I think I'd rather just go bald gracefully and naturally, and however it happens. Like, I think gray is better looking than bald. You know, like So I would just lean into it, I guess. But you know,
although maybe he knows himself. And if he had gray hair and he was balding and making these kind of faces, people might confuse him for Doc Brown and maybe start asking him about the flux capacitor. I don't know. But this was part of an insane news
press conference.
Yeah. What was he? I didn't even listen to the press conference. I just saw the reports about it. What was it about?
You know what? I turned on a YouTube video of it, and I made it about like 2 minutes because it was just like. I was like, this is really bad. This is like watching videos of people getting killed bad. Like, it just felt like you're watching snuff tapes and stuff like that. It's like you feel dirty inside.
Facesofdeath.com.
Really, like you just like,
you millennials don't know about that shit, do you?
It was in the olden days of the internet. I'm sure there's a 8chan equivalent of that.
Oh, that's also true. Yeah.
But like or maybe it's on Parler. Get your rocks off at Parler with the death video. It was basically like any and everything that he could possibly say to try and make it seem like this election is rigged, and you know, like, oh, just you wait, I'm going to be in court on Tuesday, and you know, like the things I'll say and the evidence we have is overwhelming, and
then he was in court on Tuesday.
And then there was also Sidney Powell, who was either at that one or the one before it. I can't remember exactly which one.
I think you were right about that. I think it was that he was doing news conferences like more often than the president, like every day.
Yeah.
And the one she was at, and then she was all of a sudden gone, and he upped the crazy to make it up for the fact that she was gone.
Yeah, because she brought the crazy the first time, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, because she did like we're gonna release the Kraken. Are you doing Kraken, by the way, on the Rob Explains Everything?
Yes.
Okay.
It might be one of the ones that's on pause because I ended up doing anthropomorphism and personification because I use those words, and then somebody hit me up and was like, "Hey, what was that thing that you were talking about?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right." So
new episodes.
Here we go.
But yeah, she said they were going to release a Kraken. Accused Hugo Chavez, who died. Like
2009,
2009
yeah.
About being in charge of the rigged voting machines that are rampant across this country. It's literally, I think they know that anything they say in the press conference can't be brought up as what is it when you lie in court? Shit. Fuck.
Clinton did it.
Perjury. It's not perjury if you lie at a press conference. It is perjury if you do it in a court of law.
I was a lawyer.
So Rudy is going up there and literally saying things that make people who are sharing this shit on Facebook think that they're like on the verge of something really great. And then he literally goes into court and he's just like, I'm not accusing anyone of fraud. So, which is exactly what he did during the press conference.
And so here's how I know that that's exactly what he's doing. It's because I got on Call of Duty, and I don't know if you know this, Corey, but Call of Duty Online, a lot of conservatives.
Oh, really?
Funny thing. You wouldn't really expect that. But by the way, Robert and Cheek on Activision and on PS Network if you play. I'm playing Cold War now, multiplayer Cold War. So come join me there. But what people were talking about was all the things he said in the press conference. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, like, you guys saw him in court. It was reported he basically said, no, I'm not alleging any of these things.
Yeah.
You're referring to the news conference. What I'm talking about is our pleadings here, which we're not saying any of that. We're talking about these individuals and their claims.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, he definitely didn't do that. Like, he's going to go into court and he's going to talk about, I'm like, no, he went to court. That's done.
Right.
He said these things already, and people just didn't believe it.
The fact that Rudy went to court is the real bad sign here.
Yeah.
Because I never thought we'd have a president like Trump, but I never thought that it would be such a bad job to have to be lawyer for the president that so many people would avoid it like the plague. There was a real nice white shoe firm that they hired to do Pennsylvania stuff.
Yep.
And I know they're a nice firm because I heard multiple people who are, not like newscasters or anything like that, people who are in the law in that area who said, this is a serious firm.
Yeah.
You don't bring them in unless you have something worthy of their time.
It was one of those things that were like, oh, maybe there is something.
It was
here.
like, this is, like for the first time, it looked like Trump had a capable lawyer.
Yeah.
And they backed out of that case so fast.
Yeah, that's the thing where you take the deposit, then you get the evidence and you look through it and you're like, you know what? No.
They took the deposit. Rudy came in. It's just like, have you heard of Hugo Chavez? And it's just like, all right, we're going to have to call the judge and get ourselves taken off of this one.
Yeah. And by the way, America's mayor.
Yeah.
The guy who saved New York, arguably, the guy who turned Times Square into what you got. And again, you millennials don't know this, but Times Square used to be a lot different. It was penny peekaboos and strip joints all the way up and down 42nd Street, and now it's theater district.
You see, but Rudy, as America's mayor, I think has taken a tumble too because people have realized that everything that he did was very short-term gains for long-term problems. Like, part of the way he fixed Times Square, quote unquote, is that he literally just put people on a bus and sent them anywhere else. Like homeless people who were living in Times Square, just sent them elsewhere. Like it became New York has always sort of been a playground for the rich. But like during once 9/11 hit, they realized they had the hard turn available to go even more into the have and have nots of it all.
Yeah.
I mean, like right now you can't live in New York. Like a normal everyday person can't live in New York. Like,
no, and by the way, LA becoming reasonable, which is strange.
Yeah.
Apparently rent rates are approaching the national average zone.
Somebody back home would still be like $2,000 for a 2-bedroom. What the
again? So I was playing with a group of people from Maryland, and they were talking about their rent, and then they were just like, "Yeah, Cheek, you're not talking about a lot." And I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I pay $1,400 for 600 square foot studio," and they were just like, "What the fuck are you talking about, man?" And I was just like, "Yeah," and he's like, that's my parents' mortgage. And I was like, yeah, and we joked because when we moved out here, our rent for a 2-bedroom was more than our friends who have 5 bedrooms on a quarter acre were paying in mortgage. But we're also in downtown LA, and they're not in the city. And, we don't have kids, so we don't have to be in a nice school district.
Yeah,
which is what
exactly.
But
I mean, like, realistically, 2 of these cases that Trump has brought have had any kind of favorable opinion. There's another 1 or 2 that are being appealed up to a higher court, but the initial judge was kind of like, do you want to do this? Like, really? Are we spending the court's time doing this? And just like, we plan to appeal. And it's like, go ahead. Whatever.
And people are pointing at those 2 as if like, see, we're winning. And it's like, no, you passed the prima facie gate, which is they said, okay, so you're making these claims in the media. We're going to ignore those. You're talking about these 3 individuals who had problems. Great. And we're under the understanding that this will not change the outcome of the election. Yes, of course, Your Honor. But we want to make sure that these votes are counted. Okay, we'll proceed then.
If I told you that I had pre-COVID, I had a fabulous party planned at this amazing location. There was going to be this great food and drink, and all the most beautiful people are going to be there. And I ordered the best stuff. The caviar is beluga, like everything's under silver plates. It's going to be the most fantastic thing you've ever seen. High class all the way.
Never put caviar on a silver plate.
I'm just saying. But anyway.
You didn't know that.
Show up.
How dare you?
You show up thinking it's going to be this big thing, and it's McDonald's.
Okay.
Now, there is food. There is drink. There are people.
Yep.
Maybe a couple of the details didn't quite work out the way I did, but did I lie? I mean, this is kind of like what's happening with some of these legal, like,
yes,
the 2 that he's won, they've thrown out like 56 votes that they probably weren't going to count to begin with, or something.
Yeah, ones that have been set aside anyway and weren't part of the totals.
Like these are really questionable votes. We're going to put them aside. It's like Trump lawyers win cases where it's just like they shouldn't be counted. It's like fine.
Yeah,
it's not millions of votes. Like when you show up at the McDonald's, you're just like, this isn't the Gatsby party I was imagining. Like
it's the example that I use is that it's enough that there are people on the Democratic side who, if we were a reasonable society, would just say, you know what, we're going to toss those if it'll stop your argument.
Yeah.
But everyone has the NRA position now where it's like, we don't give an inch.
Yeah.
So we're going to fight you on these that we even agree are kind of questionable, but we're going to fight you because do not want you to get a win. But in the end, it's 56 votes, and that isn't even enough to turn the precinct in the part of the county, in the state that you're trying to turn.
I mean, realistically, I think they were preparing for a very close election. Mm-hmm. And if this was, Gore Bush, then we'd be in much different situations right now.
No, we wouldn't, because right around now is when the Supreme Court just ended that whole thing.
Well, no, but I'm saying, I think that, we wouldn't have Rudy out there if this was Bush Gore. The reason why we have Rudy out there is because legitimate lawyers don't want to take this case.
Right. I was going to say, there were a lot of legitimate lawyers in many states during Bush Gore.
And I mean, Trump was setting it up. There's going to be a lot of fraud. You got to look out for it, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Turns out to be the safest election that we've ever had.
His own administration says so, yes.
One count of voter fraud in Michigan.
Yes, where a guy voted for his daughter, I believe, right?
His father, I think.
His father, okay.
And voted for Trump with that vote. And it's the first time in 6 election cycles that they've purported fraud in Michigan at all.
Oh, by the way, he was caught before his vote was cast.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's not even really voter fraud in so much as there was a vote cast. It's someone tried to vote.
Yeah.
And we caught him. And by the way,
which makes him a felon, which makes his vote not count.
Well, I was going to say, no, he got his one vote.
Yeah.
It was that he went back a second time, and they caught him coming back a second time, and that doesn't count. And now he won't be able to vote again because he's a felon. So good for him.
But I mean, beyond this, the more troubling thing is just that the whole GOP has decided that they're going to go along with this crazy nonsense as well, or at least humor it, which is almost worse because
the transition I would have gone with there is, speaking of beautiful people, Bernstein has been talking to senators. Because I'm going to put up his picture next to you, Corey, so you can enter this story, but that is one good-looking D.C. Politico.
Oh, yes.
Hey. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you. I just had that picture pulled up there, and you were talking about beautiful people, and I was like, look at you,
This is going to work. Carl Bernstein just had a tweet this morning where he named names. It was great. I'm so happy that somebody is ready to do it. Maybe Bernstein's just like, I'm close to the end. Fuck it. I'm just going to do it now.
Well, and here's the thing. The tweet that's up on the screen now that people can see, he basically said, I've weighed this out and I've talked to other reporters, and I do not feel as this is a breach of my journalistic integrity.
Yeah.
None of this was said to me in confidence. None of this was said to me as background on a story. People volunteered to me that no, he won.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 21 senators have told Carl Bernstein that they realize that this is a illegitimate, or that Trump lost and he needs to concede and the transition needs to go, and there's no air of impropriety about the whole thing, and we need to move on to the Joe Biden administration. But of those 21 people, 5, 6, something like that, are people who've said anything like that on the record.
Yeah.
There's profiles in courage like Marco Rubio and Ben Sass in there. I think Ben Sass, he kneecapped the president before the election. And then he
hasn't been pro-Trump at all during this entire
No,
thing,
but I don't think did he say anything? I don't know. What's so weird about this whole thing is that the Republicans are desperate not to have Trump mad at them so that they don't lose the Georgia Senate race.
Yep.
Or just in general, all the crazy Trump people who are taken to the streets to say that there's a rigged process.
If Trump is like, I need all of you to check out till 2024, forget about this GOP race in Georgia, the Dems are going to take it in a landslide.
Yeah.
It seems like Stacey Abrams, and God bless you, Stacey Abrams.
Yes, please.
But she is doing everything she can to get out every single vote that she can get out for that special election. And if Trump just decides to check out, the GOP's done. You're not coming out to vote for
well, it's not
Kelly
even check
Loeffler.
out. It's just specifically tank their
turn
chances.
on you?
Yeah.
If he turns on Kelly Loeffler, she's not likable to begin with. She was barely electable before.
It's so funny. How do you go into a Georgia voting booth and go do I want to vote for the reverend for the church that Martin Luther King preached at? Or do I want to vote for the person who's the wife of the person who owns the New York Stock Exchange? which one of these people is more like me?
Well,
which one
unfortunately,
can relate to my current position in life as a apple picker?
well, Corey, here's the problem. You are coming to that with one of these coastal mentalities. Because the first question is not about the job and the relatability. Because the answer to that question, when I go in and I am an average Georgia GOP voter, is I say, which one of these people is more like me? And then I remember seeing on the news that there's only one white face to choose from. So I choose for the white person and call it a day. Despite the fact that...
First part, race. Second part, whether or not they have a little R or a little D next to their name.
Yes.
Third part, if they relate to me in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Or
So, I mean, the other race
whether they're going to look out for my best interests.
The other race is the harder one because you have two white people running, and it's just like, oh, okay, so now let me go to the next
So it just
stage.
automatically goes to stage 2. Which one of these is a Republican?
Got it, yes. But again, I encourage everyone to read, and apparently there's a really good documentary you can watch for free if you have a library card. We should get the link and provide that for people. But what's the matter with Kansas? We've been talking about it since 1990 when this book originally came out, that 70% of Republican voters vote for people who do not represent them at all.
Yeah.
You say to yourself, well, abortion is a big deal to me, so I'm going to vote for somebody who is pro-life. And then you realize that the person you're voting for does not give a shit about the pro-life debate.
Yeah.
They are taking that position to get your vote, and then they're going to spend all of their time on giving money from the public coffers to the rich because they're rich and it's more important.
You want to know how much of a deal breaker issue it is? Look at how many Democrats say that they're pro-life in heavy red districts.
Yeah.
Like the Democratic Party has basically looked the other way on that issue if you were in a competitive enough district. Like Nancy Pelosi couldn't walk up to the thing.
I want her to. Yeah. I want her to do that.
Just be like, I've been thinking a lot about it. This abortion thing's wrong. Like, there's just no way. But like, if you're a Democrat running for a solid red Alabama seat, then there's no way. Like Doug Jones, I think, was not pro-choice, but he was like one of those, like, there are very specific situations in which I think it's appropriate.
Yes.
And I wouldn't approve of anything other than these situations, but unfortunately, Roe v. Wade is the law of the land.
Yeah.
Doing one of those, like, let me see how much I can waffle on this answer kind of.
Hey, Republicans, are you listening to me? I'm saying rape and incest is my line. Democrats, now you need to pay attention. Roe v. Wade's the law of the land. We need to follow. But yeah, there's the judge in Queen Anne's County, whose name now escapes me, the last Democrat to win District 1.
Gilchrist.
No. He was Republican. They're after him.
The Democrat. Oh, yeah.
He's now a judge because he got beaten by Andy Harris.
Right. I liked him too. I can't remember. Yeah.
But anyway, he was anti-Obamacare.
Yeah.
And vocally,
pro-life.
Not pro-life. He was that like, listen, I'm pro-choice, but
I have a couple exceptions.
We can't be using abortion as birth control, but I would like to make birth control widely available to everybody and for free. And that way we don't have to worry about it. But in cases of incest or rape, we need to have it be an option for people. But, I've been a Catholic my whole life, and I feel like the Catholic Church has guided us well on this. I disagree with Catholicism when it comes to birth control because I think that's how we avoid this problem. But he walked this weird line, but then, like, if honestly, sorry to call it the judge, but if you talk to him in private, he's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm a terrible Catholic. Birth control is absolutely necessary.
I have funded many abortions.
And I'm not saying that about the judge. But
that was me. That was a joke. It's all right.
But he was very much pro-choice. He was a very forward-thinking Democratic mind, but he knew Obamacare does not fly in his district, and there are a lot of voters like my parents for whom abortion is the issue.
Yeah.
They're not even gun people. I'm more of a gun person than my parents, but abortion is their thing. Religion is where it's at, and they're not Catholics, but he came out being very religious. He's a every Sunday Catholic, and they can be forgiving about the fact that, you talk to the priest instead of God. But
so, here's my question, and I don't mean this as insulting to people who may be listening to it who are Trump fanatics, right? But
are there any of those left?
I'm just saying somebody just happened to tune in at this moment and be like, hey, I wonder what they're talking about on this podcast.
I'm just saying,
like it's a radio dial. Like
I have said things that have caused Secret Service investigations into both of us. So if there's any Trump fans left, I doubt they're listening.
Anyway, I think that it's not so much that they want to like keep this voter block because they think they're so productive. I think it's just that like they're dumb for the most part, and they're just trying to keep them from having to think about it too much. Like, I thought about it in this term earlier because we talked a couple weeks ago about how like owning the libs has sort of become the generalized philosophy of the Republican Party these days. I mean, like, I think about it like, if Buck Showalter wasn't a good manager, but every single post-game press conference, it was like a Rodney Dangerfield bit where he was like, yeah, Derek Jeter sucking dick in the locker room. Like, I'd love it. I'd laugh.
Yeah.
I'd find it hilarious. I wouldn't find the losing very hilarious, like, if he wasn't a good manager.
But there are people in Baltimore who'd be like, what are you talking about? Give it a buck. Do you hear those? Yeah,
have you heard his press conference?
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. He told Derek Jeter to suck dick the other day. Who does that? It's like, yeah, but we lose every game. It's like, yeah, but he's great. Like, we
were losing every game before too. What do you care?
Let's have some fun with this, man. I mean, like, it's one of those things. It's like, we're getting an adult in the room. How much anyone necessarily agrees with Joe Biden up for debate, but like, we finally have an adult in the room, and people are just like, no, but we like the guy who was like Derek Jeter sucks dick. It's like, do you want to win or do you want to? Do you want to have fun? Like
well, and one of the things is Republicans have to keep Trumpers in the party, because so much of the party has moved right to the Trumpers. Yeah, if they lose them, there's no party left. You have a Trump party. You're in
this delicate balancing act where you both want to win and have the guy who like fucking insults the best player on the other team.
Yeah,
like,
and you have the other team who has moved very far to the center with their guy, but who is also, by the way, with his not his Veep choices, but his cabinet choices. Yeah, basically saying, "Hey, left wing of the party, hang on. I gotta get some John Kerrys and some, reasonable, Mitt Romney. Maybe I want to take him out of the Senate and put him in something in here because he's a reasonable man.
Listen, I'm gonna nominate Rahm Emanuel for something because the only thing these Republicans know is about covering up a murder investigation. So I need to get this guy front and center. Like,
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so I think aptly I heard on Fox News. Ironically, of all places, they said the only people who should be upset about these picks for the cabinet positions are the left wing of the party who backed Biden because he's not coming through with any of the lefties that he promised. Right. And I'm like, wait, what channel am I watching here? And they're like, John Kerry? You couldn't get a more reasonable diplomat to run something. Yeah. And if you want to have people trust us again, this is who you put in that position. Yeah. And like, we don't have any, like, we hate John Kerry when he's running against
Bush.
Bush? Was it Bush? Yeah. Yeah. When he's running against Bush, we hate him. But I mean, reasonably, he's on our side of the middle. So, okay.
I mean, they didn't really hate John Kerry either. That's really the thing. Like, even when it was Bush Kerry, it's not like you were voting for Bush because you hated Kerry.
I mean, that's true. I keep forgetting that this is a new thing that's been brought on. Like, we weren't hating.
You might have voted for Kerry because you hated Bush, but I feel like even as much as in the time it felt like hating Bush was like the reason to vote for Kerry, like it wasn't nearly as high as it was for Biden. Like, people were just like, shut up, don't even think about anything else, just vote for Biden. We don't have time for your bullshit about like why you're upset about this thing and another. The democracy is on the line. Let's just get the guy who's not a child. Like,
it occurs to me, I disliked Mitt Romney, but I believed in change. And then I was disappointed 4 years later, and I was like, you know what? John McCain.
Oh, it's the other way. McCain and then Romney.
Was it McCain, Romney?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was on board with John McCain until Sarah Palin. And then I was like, okay, no, I'm not doing that. Let's see how this change thing works out. And then Romney came. I'm like, well, now, so that means for the last 3 elections, I've been on the side of like, I just don't like this other person. Yeah. And I'm going to vote for the one who at least kind of represents the things I believe in. Closer to, at least. Listen, they're both going to bomb brown children. One of them's going to feel bad about it. So
I wonder sometimes in a reverse, if you reconstruct it and McCain picked anyone other than Palin, if it would have made a substantial difference.
So I'm trying to remember
because I was very McCain on that. It's not like I was like 100% committed to voting for McCain at the time, but I was pretty solid in his camp. I was like, I'm probably going to vote for McCain. I like Obama, but I'm probably going to vote for McCain because
I believe I did say I like Obama, but this we can stuff sounds pretty cult-like. And then the whole Sarah Palin came out, and I'm like, all right, we can, sure.
There was a part of it that all felt like it was a little bit too like buy a Coke and smile, like
yeah.
It felt like it was a think tank that came up with a great campaign. Then
who was running against McCain in the Republican primary in that year? Like when John McCain gets in, it's rough because like you're going to clear out most of the field just by knowing he's going to be there.
I don't think he had a serious.
Romney, I think his name was in 2012, which is why he was a front runner in 2012.
Yeah.
2008.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, it's.
I would have probably reacted to Romney the same way I reacted to Palin, though. Like,
what are the? Regardless of where we are, somebody in the Republican Party needs to sit Trump down and just be like, listen. We need to come up with a clean break here because, one way or the other, you're going to be heading home on January 20th. So we're willing to help you act like this was a humongous corrupt process, but you have to meet us halfway here a little bit. Like,
listen, we've been dating for 4 years. We share a lease. If you start punching holes in the wall on the way out. We're both going to pay for that. And what we'd like to see is a nice amicable break where we keep the Senate. The
GSA said that they're going to start allowing money to go to the Biden campaign, which is like the first sign that the Trump administration has sort of acknowledged that Trump is going to take over.
350,000
It seemed
calls.
like whoever her name, Emily Gordon, I think it is, the head, was going to come in and testify to Congress today. And then she was just like, no, I'm going to send an aide next week. Katie Porter's like breaking the whiteboard over her knee on like, you take it now.
But by the way, said defiantly, like, nope, not coming today. I'll send an aide next week. And then quietly announces they're going to start releasing money to the Biden campaign. Like, oh, okay, all right.
Well, because there was people on Twitter. I just love the Twitter outroar that happens when somebody's just like, no, I'm going to send an aide next week. It's just like, it used to be a real nice day when the contempt of Congress meant something. And you get the chief guard to go out there and drag you out of your office and bring you to Congress. Like,
I'm thinking about McCarthy, and I'm thinking about like Dalton Trumbo being, not Dalton Trumbo. Dalton Trumbo?
Yeah.
Dalton Trumbo.
Yeah.
Being dragged before Congress and on threat of being put in
jailing?
jail until he says something to Congress, because he sat there quietly and said nothing. And then they're like, you have to talk, you're going to go to jail. And he's like, all right, yeah, I'm a communist. By the way, I also wrote Best Picture last year. So what do you want to do? But when communism meant like, we're going to drag you in here and throw you in jail until you give us an answer. But now it means absolutely nothing. And by the way, I don't know what Dalton Trumbo looked like because all I can picture in my head is
Trumbo, the movie.
Yeah, what's his name?
Cranston
sitting in a bathtub. Every time I think of Trumbo, I think of Cranston in a bathtub. And I'm like, listen, he's a great actor, but Dalton Trumbo was like a perennial figure, both for communists and for screenwriters and for people who want to be politically active. And now all I can think of is Cranston in a fucking bathtub. With that fucking cigarette holder in the corner of his mouth. Sorry.
Well, a couple things before we get out of here.
Yes.
First of all, I had a moment this morning where I was on Twitter, like I apparently was all day today, as evidenced by this conversation. Baltimore, not to the surprise of anyone, passed their 300th murder today. And what I find interesting about this, just a quick point, is that L.A. just got up to 300 murders just this past weekend, I think.
Well, that makes them equal then.
Except the difference is that L.A. has 4 million people and Baltimore has 600,000 people. And 300 murders for Baltimore is like ho-hum, and 300 murders for Los Angeles is, what the fuck is wrong with our city? We're descending into...
We're in a crisis. It's chaos. Also, even if you count the metro...
Garcetti's not going to do fucking anything about it, but I mean, like, that's beside the point.
Even if you count the metro area...
He doesn't do anything about the problems he already has, so...
If you count the metro area, it's like 12 million people, but you had like 10 murders. If you had the metro area in Baltimore, it's like, oh, well, okay, now we break 1 million. Maybe it's probably like 1.5 with Towson and Lutherville and... Dundalk.
Yeah, like Anne Arundel County.
Yeah,
and all
sure,
that. Yeah.
around the area. But I guess if you count, because Brooklyn is in Baltimore City. That's right. It's Brooklyn.
No, Brooklyn Park is in.
Brooklyn Park is, but not Brooklyn.
No, Brooklyn Park. I'm sorry, Brooklyn Park is Anne Arundel. Brooklyn is.
Right,
yeah.
see? I remember the whole like no. I don't live in Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn Park. It's very different. It's past the 7-Eleven at the light. It's very important.
It's a full 800 yards away from Baltimore City. I don't know why you confuse me for.
It's funny though because if you add the metro area, you get 12 million in LA, and you probably add like 50 murders. And if you add the metro area in Baltimore, you get to like 1.5 million. But you also only add like 10 or 15 murders. It's not that many. So it's like. It's literally just Baltimore City.
Yeah.
And, LA's having the same problem that Baltimore's having. I've read a story. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on just you and people can't see me. I read a story in the LA Times that was just basically like, oh, well, a lot of this is fueled by drugs because people are staying inside. And a lot of people were like, Corey, I've been pushing you to quit smoking. I'm like, hey, it's a good time to quit smoking at the end of the year because California's crazy and making crazy laws. But there's people who were just like, you know what? If I'm going to be locked inside for 3 months, now it's time to get clean. I can do it now because I'm going to get in trouble if I leave. And me in South Central might draw some attention right now. So maybe it's time.
Especially past curfew.
Yeah. And then the curfew was in place for a while. So, yeah, the drug trade is down. And now it's causing people to be like, well, to make money, we need to expand territory. When you expand territory, it causes conflicts with other people. And
I mean, like I was saying to you before, like there's no drug dealers who are like instituting a mask mandate and putting out little circles that keep junkies 6 feet away from each other. This is a unregulated industry, so there's gonna be,
and they're not getting PPP money. If the government opened up PPP money,
listen, if you send it to drug dealers too, I mean, we'd be.
Yeah. You know what? You want to make murder zero in Baltimore? Open up the PPP money to all the drug organizations, and then it's like, wait, you mean we getting paid? I don't have to go stand outside all day? Fine.
We will pay you the same amount as you got as a drug dealer, which is equivalent to the $600 a week we were paying everybody to literally stay home and not sell drugs. It's just like, you mean I could do this and not get shot?
Or not
sold.
And by the way, get shot by rival drug gang,
or a
Baltimore City
cop.
police, like have them roll up on me, and I got to go to jail where I could also get COVID. Like this is all looking up for me. I'm fine with it. So,
well, we had just one last little bit to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is the thing messed up? I don't know because it was last week.
Is what messed up?
The drop.
Oh! I think I reconnected this one.
Okay, I just wanted to give you a chance.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yeah. But it takes us talking about Sportsball.
Balls. Yeah, it's fucked up. I found the video. I must not have dropped it back in the right folder.
Nah, that's all right. So yes, much like things have gotten really bad these last couple months with COVID, things have also gotten bad this last couple months with the Ravens. And just like COVID, it just seems to be getting worse at this time of year. And we lost to the Titans yesterday in a game that we really needed. I don't know how else to say. We really needed that one. And I just don't know what to do with this team anymore. Something's not right, like something's rotten in Denmark here. Like it's not just one thing, but there are a lot of problems, and I don't know where to start. Even though this looks like a really good team, looks like a team that's good enough to be in the playoffs, looks like a team that could potentially, if everything figures out, win the Super Bowl.
Well, it looks like that three quarters a game, and then
but like right now, I just don't feel confident at all. Like we're playing the Steelers this coming weekend or this coming Thursday, and I'm not looking forward to it because I just feel like there's another round of pain in store for us, and I know there's a lot of injuries, and like people aren't. Hollywood Brown is getting passes thrown directly to his hands that he's dropping, and it's I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? Is this just bad because it's bad, or like have we angered God somehow? Like what do you point this to?
Well, it's I look at Lamar.
Yeah.
In major part. I think you said something last week which is very fitting. And I did watch the game this week for the first time in 2 weeks, and I saw that thing you had mentioned before, which was like him getting into a spot where you wait just 2 seconds longer than he did last year, and now there's no place to run. So now I would see him pull the ball down and looked like he was going to run.
Yeah.
And then realized there's nowhere to go. So the ball comes back up, and he's like, all right, I'm the greatest athlete in the world. I can force this in and force it in, and either incompletion or turnover.
Yeah.
Or pull it back up just in time to get sacked.
Yeah.
And without having that, like, pull down, take a step, pull back up, maybe you would have gotten a completion or whatever. But it's – and I know you said the play calling, but I didn't see a lot of problems with play calling, at least during the portions of the game that this Sunday's game for the Titans.
So –
at least on the offensive side of the ball. The defense had some issues, but...
Well, the defense has a lot of, like, our run stoppers are gone. Both Brandon Williams and Calais Campbell were out. That hurts, especially against a team like, the Titans with Derrick Henry. Like, that's just a real tough go.
But they controlled him for 3 quarters, and then there was almost no... it seemed like they didn't adjust.
That's the rub on Henry, because he's just such, like, a big bruising... Like, when the game starts... Yeah, you're ready to hit this guy. Like you've been waiting all week to hit somebody.
Yeah. Now and it's then, like, I'm done.
Now you've got 15 minutes left in this game. You feel like you've been in a car accident, and this guy's still running like he was in the beginning. So like,
well, I think also I didn't see any change in the defense, and he's a smart dude, and he's like, all right, so whenever I run to the left, this is how they do it. All right, I'm gonna take 2 seconds.
It felt a lot like chasing people.
Yeah.
On the defense, I do have to blame the play calling though on the offense, because like it's not like the calls were bad per se. It's like that they're not executing, and then it just feels like you're not using the best of your weapons. So like there was some backup running back or wide receiver who was lining up as a running back in the third quarter, I want to say, who was super fast, like just lightning fast, and they were doing these like wheel routes where he was like getting a running start, and then you're throwing the ball to him in like behind the line of scrimmage, but you're like throwing the ball to him, and now he's just already running full speed.
Yeah, he's already up at speed.
And he was really fast. Like you could just notice how much faster he was than anyone else on the field. And I'm just like, we have fast guy. Like we don't have like a lot of them, but like how are you not putting Hollywood in a situation like this, like where you're just giving him a running start and letting him get a catch and make a move after the fact, why aren't you just doing things that just open up the opportunities a little bit more, or just make them think that that at any moment something weird could happen? Like that's the last year with the Ravens, you would watch and you would never know when they were going to do something completely different.
Yeah,
they might not be capable of running that offense right now, but the surprise should still be there, I feel like.
Well,
I mean, like...
There was only one deep strike, and it was an incompletion. But talking about just, like, if you're going to do a 5-step drop, just send somebody on a post route and make them think that we have the chance of throwing it downfield. Because it felt like they were doing a lot of cover 2, and everything's going to be within 20 yards, and we just keep everybody in the box, basically, or the second box. But
I don't know. I really... Lamar's got an arm. Like, it's not like he can't throw down the field. And I don't question his accuracy that much. I feel like he can put it in there if he needs to. I just don't think anyone's getting open. Like that's really the problem. Like we every year with the Ravens, we keep saying like, oh man, if we only had a good wide receiver, this whole thing would be different. I don't know what to say. It's just like,
well, that's the one that they did throw downfield in like the third quarter. He overthrew Hollywood, who was open. He just overthrew him, and I'm like, okay, if you had done that on the first drive, they start respecting that you're going to throw it. You overthrew the guy who was like open downfield. Yeah. They're going to start dropping a safety every single time, because who knows when you're going to do that again.
It's just like, I don't know. Like I was watching the Sunday night game with the Chiefs and the Raiders. And, the Chiefs have, it's unfair to compare these two teams, because the Chiefs have weapons at every single position multiple times. Like, If we had McCole Hardman, who was the third wide receiver on the Chiefs, on the Ravens, he would be our number one far and away. Like the number 3 guy on the Chiefs wide receiver depth chart is still better than like most other people's number 1. So
they have a quarterback who has 1.5 more seasons of experience, and I still go back to, I don't blame the play calling, I blame play selection during the play by Lamar.
But it's not like Mahomes struggled last year. He was still an MVP candidate.
No, remember that Lamar started like a bit of a season. And last
running
year was
running Joe
season.
Flacco's playbook. Yeah.
And so you shouldn't even look to that as part of a year. It's what year did he have a full year of, which puts Patrick 2 years ahead of him.
No, but I'm saying, like, if the first year that, if every year, if the first year you look promising, but you don't necessarily figure it all out, second year it looks like you really figured it out. Like, and now it's just fine tuning the edges to make you the ultimate player.
Yeah.
And then third season you fall off significantly. Like,
well,
and it's not like his talent is less than it was last season. He looks just as talented. No. It's just like nobody else is helping him.
And that's the difference, is that Chiefs spent money to bring in people for Patrick to throw to. They're like, this kid is crazy. Let's get him somebody to throw to.
Yeah.
And the Ravens were like, this kid is crazy. We're just going to let him run the whole thing. Okay, now.
Let's get some more defense.
Yeah. We're going to back him up with a guy who also was put on his shoulders to run the whole thing and then blew out his knee in his third season.
And then, of course, this week is going to be even more tough because Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins have tested positive for coronavirus. And because of that, nobody is able to practice this week at Owings Mills.
At the facility, yeah.
Whether or not we actually have a game on Thursday, I think, is still up in the air as well, but depending on what happens with testing after this, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but J.K. Dobbins and like Lamar Jackson were not socially distanced during the game, so they were very close to one another.
Also, more importantly,
all the defensive players who were tackling
him, yeah. More importantly, Adam Thielen is out with COVID, so I think we should just brush this whole week off, forget it. In fact, don't hold this week so that fantasy doesn't count, and then next week we'll pick it up again.
Let's call up Rob, see if we can get a 1 week push.
Yeah. I mean, if the NFL
rampant coronavirus,
if the NFL doesn't play any games this week, then we'll just continue the season an extra week, because Adam Thielen is consistently putting up like 25, 30 points for me every week.
Everyone who really,
winning.
we're gonna not play this week. Everyone who really needs a win is just gonna get one. Everyone who's been winning already takes a loss. Like,
I'm down for that. Give Rachel back-to-back losses, something for her to complain about again. Yeah.
But real quick before we get out of here, just because we have the game hypothetically coming up 5 days from now or 4 days from now, what are your thoughts on this Pittsburgh game, going up to Pittsburgh for a Thanksgiving Day game against the Steelers? Is there?
Well, I mean,
do you have hope? Are you hopeless, or are you like?
You said it last week that you have to win when Tennessee comes to town, because now we're going into a still unbeaten Pittsburgh team, playing them at home, and it becomes almost a must-win game. Because we go from 6-3, and instead of being 7-3, we're now 6-4, with a chance of going 7-4, which means you win out to get to 11-4, right? 11-4?
Yeah, I mean, like 11-5.
11-5, yeah.
I think 11-5 probably makes the playoffs. The AFC is a lot tougher than the NFC, but I don't know. I feel like the Ravens need this one. Like it morally, if nothing else, because it really feels like a tailspin if you lose another game here, especially
3 in a row, right? 4 in a row, 3 in a row,
3 or 4, because we beat Indy. That's right, the week before. Yeah. So
losing 3 of 4 and then going in and losing,
and 2 of them to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we have a great chance of winning the division at this point. Pittsburgh would really have to lose everything.
Yeah, they have to lose out, right?
Well, not lose out, but I mean, like, they'd have to really, like, stink it up from this point on. Like, they'd have to have serious injuries, I think.
Well, wait, so if they lose every game, they end up 11-5, right?
Aren't they 10?
They're 10-0 right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they lose, they're 11-0.
They're 11-0.
Yeah, after this week.
Yeah.
So they're 11-0. They would lose out and be 11-5. So if the Ravens won out, we would also be 11-5.
Yeah.
So.
And then they might have the tiebreaker.
They would have. Well, no, because we would.
It would come down to conference record, I think.
Yeah,
or division record. I can't remember.
They're not going to lose out. They're not going to lose out.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to win the division. So now it's about saving the rest of the season to be one of the other 2 best teams that gets in with the wild card.
Yeah, I'm not feeling overwhelmingly confident.
No.
But this does, if anything, that I'm looking forward to this week. This sort of feels like we got to throw it all out there kind of thing. Like, this is sometimes when a team is on the ropes and it's like now or never. If you don't start winning now, then you're not going to make the playoffs. You got to really turn it around at this point. They start throwing out the double reverses, the trick plays, and the literally anything that gets us success. Like we'll do anything to win this game.
A pregame trick play. They announce, well, listen, no one's testing positive, but everybody's feeling a little weird today. Yeah. And then you're Mike Tomlin, and you're like, I'm not jeopardizing a perfect season over this. So, Ben, you're sitting. I don't want any defenders coming near you at all. Yeah. Take all your best players, and you sit them. And you're just like, you know what? No, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to lose the season over one game because these guys are fired up, and they're also apparently feeling weird during the press. And then that gives us the win, and then we can go on with the rest of the season.
Or maybe they just forfeit. Like, we all crawl on the field. They crawl on the field coughing. And it's just like, I ain't doing that shit.
No, they tested negative.
They can win. It's fine. It's fine.
They tested negative. They're fine. No, it's okay. It's okay.
I don't feel confident about this.
Yeah, I don't know who the Steelers play the next 2 weeks. But if it's tough games, then it might be like, hey, you know what? No, Ben, you stay over here. You're 38 years old. I don't need you getting COVID right now. So,
well, hopefully something miraculous happens. I've never with two teams that have been this good. Yeah. Especially in a Ravens Steelers matchup. I've never been less confident than I am right now that the Ravens are going to win somehow.
Well, and the problem is that the losses they had weren't terrible losses. They were competitive all the way through, and it just less competitive in last week's game.
But I mean, some of these games have been competitive when they shouldn't have been. Like the Eagles game was competitive and it shouldn't have been. Yeah. That's the problem. Yes, all the games are competitive, but I would, the Ravens were blowing out people left and right last year, and I would like a little bit more of that magic.
Well, and I think that for the Eagles, though, just to count on that point, they were getting in a situation where we got to turn this season around. Yeah. And then they won one, and then immediately went right back into stink after that. But, I think that they were in the position the Ravens were in now, where if we don't start turning this around, it's going to be a bad season. Yeah. And they got the win, and then they didn't turn around. So maybe that's why that game was so bad.
Well, I don't know what your plans are for Thursday. If you're not spending it with family, can I make a recommendation?
What's that?
OTheanthem.com. Corey to OTheanthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com. I always mess up website. I just blur right through that.
What's it?
My website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendsCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I have been feverishly working on new YouTube content. I know you've heard this before, but Rob and I were talking about the steps that will be taken, and you will be impressed once you see it. I feel like I'm Trump right now. When you see it, it's going to be great. It's going to be the greatest thing you'll ever see.
Best content ever.
No, but I'm trying a lot harder to make higher end, more quality content, so let's see how that goes. And for that, you can go to my YouTube, which is available on the website and the social and blah, blah, blah.
All right.
Yep.
And, of course, you can find me at Robert and Cheek on all social networks. Make sure you check out robertandcheek.com where you can find links to all the stuff that I'm working on. Daily podcast, Rob Explains, still going strong. New episodes of that. We're doing mythical creatures right now. I took a little sidebar to jump into answer a question where someone asked me what not onomatopoeia. Damn.
You just said it a second ago.
I know. I literally just said it. Personification and anamorphization?
Yeah, nope. Anamorphism.
Anamorphism? No.
Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, it's not that. Giving animals human traits. Yeah. Anyway, so I did a couple episodes on those, and then I unlocked a little side route of mental illnesses, including one that you give everything around you a personality. And I realized, Corey, that
this is my happy fork.
Well, I was gonna say, do you remember that Lily, the Lily AT&T Lily returns to AT&T commercials, where it was I've been working from home, and this is my Gerardo, my guitar, and whatever.
Yeah,
that's an actual mental.
My favorite. Yeah,
it's a mental condition that you give personality traits to everything around you.
Yeah.
So doing the research for personification and whatever the other thing is, I found that, and then I went down this rabbit hole of weird mental diseases that are rare, and that happen so rarely that every time someone has them, doctors are like, "You faking? Are you faking this thing?"
Anything sound like me so far? Because I'm. I'm looking to pick up a new condition. It's been a while.
I mean, listen to the episodes and you can find it. So those are going to be this week, and then we'll get back to the mythical creatures. But nonetheless, have that. Also have Rob Explains, Rob Explains is every day. Everyman Movie Reviews. If you saw or heard the most recent episode, we are going to go on hiatus at the end of this year. So make sure you check out the next 13 episodes. Those will be the last 13 for at least the time being, probably until at least movie theaters reopen and there's more new content to do reviews of. But I'm going to be focusing on some other stuff, bringing out some new projects. So we'll have announcements about that after the first of the year. But you can find all that stuff on the website. So look for it there.
Splendiferous.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Bathroom time. Wrap it up. Wrap it up.